I pointed to the BRICS and their mBridge technology and the unit settlement token that the head of the New Development Bank, Dilma Rousseff, and she's the former president of Brazil, has said, in principle, we agree. We agreed to a new settlement currency called the unit. I talked about how mBridge was kind of hijacked by the BIS at the 12th hour. To me, it was espionage, right out of a James Bond movie. But the bottom line was, and you know, the guys on this panel were very smart, and they basically all agreed that de-dollarization is real, and it's happening, and that indeed we are moving towards some form of a digital currency. When you take the world's GDP, all of it, and take the countries that comprise 99% of it, every single one of those countries, the United States included, have a CBDC either under development or in operation. And in the case of the United States, Lael Brainerd, who used to be at the Treasury, and then she was at the Federal Reserve. She ran against Powell for his reappointment, ended up being the vice chair at the Federal Reserve, and then she's now the #2 economic advisor to President Biden, or was. Today he's on his way out. I suppose she will be too. But she's a modern monetary theorist, and when she was at the Boston Fed at the beginning of Biden's administration, he wrote an executive order to fast track the development of the CBDC. She ran point on it with MIT. So the United States has a CBDC, whether they're willing to, at the point of being able to roll it out or not sure, along with Project Agora and Project Cedar, which are the cross-border payment systems that the Federal Reserve is testing. We're moving in that direction, I guess was the consensus, and that to underestimate the trend of de-dollarization would be a big mistake, even under President Trump. And you know, and he's probably right. Doesn't mean they won't do it, but he is probably right. It would have been the BRICS, and at the 12th hour, the BIS pulled out of Project mBridge, which is really very underhanded. Will only crystallize their desire and resolve to issue a common settlement currency, not a common currency, which is different, not a BRICS currency, but a settlement currency. The BIS Innovation Hub, along with China, Hong Kong, Thailand, and the UAE, developed mBridge, and which is a cross-border payment system, which would have allowed the unit to trade across it. And the Innovation Hub at the BIS for 4 years helped them refine this Chinese technology. And at the meeting in Russia, at the 12th hour, the BIS comes out and says, well, you know, we really can't be part of any country or any system where countries that are sanctioned by the West, it represents a conflict of interest. We can't do this, so we're pulling out, and we're gonna shut down mBridge. And it's as if they just realized for the very first time that Russia is the R in BRICS. After 4 years of doing this, Russia's been sanctioned for a long time. They wait until it's operational and being rolled out. So now it's going from mBridge, it's called the bridge. If I had to guess, it would be them that would roll it out first. I don't know how far along or what desire Europe has to do it, to tokenize or to turn the euro into a CBDC. But I do know if it were up to the BIS, they wanted everyone by 2025 to have an operational CBDC. And just about all of the industrialized world has one ready to go roll out. Will we see it? Don't know. And as it pertains to the new Trump administration, I think he's someone who understands precious metals. Judy Shelton understands precious metals, wants a 50-year treasury collared to gold. Senator Loomis says, let's revalue it. I mean, there's a lot of it. And if he did issue a digital currency, he could go the other way and use constitutional money and peg to it, not the CBDC route that Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum wants, and the United Nations, and this surveillance state. So I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that they understand what sound money is. Scott does, and Judy does. I'm hoping Judy gets onto the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, and of course she was Trump's nomination to run the Fed in his last administration. Although she wasn't confirmed, there is a lot of belief that she will be on the Board of Governors here very soon. After what we've lived through, Kai, I think people just want to get our culture back. more than anything, it's been 4 years of craziness, wokeness, and distortions of what America is, a system that was based upon merit and hard work that was usurped for lifestyle. That's not right. The lawlessness, the open borders, the questions surrounding the election integrity, surrounding the judicial system and the FBI, all of these things I think need to be addressed, and I think it will be met with great optimism. What do the first 100 days look like? I don't know. I mean, I can't believe that there aren't a lot of pitfalls ahead for him. As an example, tomorrow the Treasury runs out of money, and they're at a place where if they don't raise the debt ceiling again, and it's ironic it happens the day he takes office, then there's problems. They're already, as it is, suspending pensions and retirement benefits to postal employees and civil servants. I think that it's a mistake to think that this will go smoothly. He certainly has a lot in store for him. They're leaving him a very messy house. The first 2 months of the fiscal year, October, November, was the greatest indebtedness the United States Treasury has ever gone into, ever in its history, in the first 2 months. Massive overspending, right? And all of his agendas, they're trying the best to hijack it, including drilling around the offshore around the country. Made an executive order, Biden did, accelerating the war in the Ukraine, giving $175 billion to the Ukraine over the past couple of years, while at the same time we have problems in Palisades, in Palestine, Ohio, Palisades, California, in Maui or Lahaina, and of course in North Carolina. These problems of taking care of the rest of the world but not taking care of our home and our infrastructure, I think have to end, and I think you'll see that right away. But he's being left a messy house that I think will not be as smooth as people think. I think there's a tremendous amount of optimism and euphoria surrounding what he can do to bring our culture back. But I think what people are not paying close enough attention to is what's under the surface financially. And I have a feeling it's going to be a very bumpy first 100 days for sure, with the markets, with the recession that we're, by all accounting standards, the SAM rule, the unemployment increase, the amount of money in the money markets, all of these things are saying recession. At the same time, all of the metrics on the value of the stock market are screaming overvaluation, including Warren Buffett, who has $400 billion on the sidelines. And so, yeah, this is a situation where there are some black swans hiding under the surface. You look at the amount of silver that India's imported, almost 900 million ounces in the last 4 years. As you mentioned, Russia making a part of their strategic stockpile. China is gone from a net exporter to a net importer. They're flying all around the world to Peru and to South America in particular, disintermediating the market and buying directly from the miners. They're buying doré bars, which are a crudely refined bar, maybe 40-50%, before it gets sent in for further refinement. And they're buying concentrate, which is like a sludge byproduct of the mining and the refining process, and sending it all home, paying double what the West will, and having it refined further in China. 77% of all of China's industrial uses of silver is coming from concentrate that they buy directly from the miners, which disintermediates the marketplace. No one knows how much they're getting. It doesn't affect the price. They're the second largest producer of it in the world as well. And here we are again. We'll have a 280 million ounce shortfall this year again, which is the fourth year in a row over 1 billion ounces short. It's a structural deficit that's not going away. You had 47 million ounces delivered off of COMEX in December. Who's taking that? Where's it all going? On the LBMA right now, you have 800 million ounces. It's the lowest position they've ever had because of that 800 million, 500 million belong to the ETFs. That leaves a float of 300 million ounces. They trade 290 million ounces per day on the LBMA. They trade the entire float. However, they admit to the fact that that trading is 10 times understated because they only post the final settlement numbers, which would mean they're trading as much as 3 billion ounces of silver per day, which is 3.5 times annual global mine supply. They have a 300 million ounce float against between 4 and 6 billion ounces short naked. 90+% of all of those short trades are naked, meaning there's nothing behind it but stupid commercial banks' ability to continue to suppress the price. And that's something that I think needs to be understood, because what it is a powder keg waiting to happen. And whether it be a delivery failure or a force majeure, on COMEX, silver is rehypothecated close to 2,000%, meaning 20 people hold a 5,000 ounce contract. If every one of them stand for delivery, one will be lucky to get the metal, the rest would be cash settled or force majeure. You have military industrial complex that needs silver. It is omitted in the supply demand numbers. If you Google H.2768, I believe is the number, that was a congressional hearing in 1942 where they basically, they're talking about using silver for war purposes, and they said at the present rate we're using 200 million ounces of silver per year for military. Why would those same banks be short between 4 and 6 billion ounces of silver in London off of a 300 million ounce float? Because they're stupid, number one, as stupid as a mud wall, and number two, they're being told by very powerful people, in particular the military industrial complex, to keep the price low because they need it to make high-tech weaponry to sell all around the world. That's why it's happening. And the difference now is that the countries like China and India and Russia are not only coordinated and sophisticated and motivated, but they're wealthy enough to exploit the delivery mechanism. That is what is different. No one ever stood for delivery. These countries were not motivated nor coordinated to stand for delivery, and they are now. And that's where this ultimately ends. I look at silver as the most asymmetrical risk-reward trade I've ever seen. Lowest downside, best upside. And one of these days, look, the only way that you can successfully manipulate a market over time is to push it in the direction it's going. For a very long time, silver was very easy for these banks to manipulate. But being on the wrong side of a naked short right now in this market, where countries are actually including them into their strategic stockpile, where China is flying around the world buying concentrate and doré, tells me that this game has never been closer to ending, and really they understand what we're doing, and they're using our suppression against us. It's jiu-jitsu. Use your opponent's leverage against you, and they are. The reason they're not bitching about our suppression is because they're the ones accumulating it, and at some point we see the price setting move from the COMEX, move from the LBMA to places like Shanghai, where, by the way, Pierre Lassonde said the price ultimately will be priced in the East, not in the West, when the volume on Shanghai surpasses COMEX. Well, just recently, the Shanghai Metals Exchange and the Shanghai Futures Exchange combined volume is greater than that of the COMEX, making it number 2 most heavily traded platform for gold in the world. So how close are we? A lot closer than we've ever been, in my opinion.